You come into the bathroom, flush the toilet, and the water just starts rising. Your first instinct might be to grab a drain snake, but that could scratch or even crack your porcelain beyond repair. After 3 decades of fixing toilets, I want to show you 8 safer and smarter ways to unclog any toilet without causing damage. Stick around, because number 6 is one most people have never even thought of, and I have got a bonus tip at the end that could save you hundreds of dollars. The first method you should always reach for is a flange plunger. And I want to be really specific here because most people are using the wrong plunger entirely. You know that flat cup-shaped plunger you probably have sitting next to your toilet right now? That one is actually designed for sinks and flat drains. It does almost nothing inside a toilet bowl because it cannot get a proper seal around the curved drain opening. What you need is a flange plunger. It looks similar, but it has a soft rubber extension that folds out from inside the cup. That little flap is the flange, and it fits right down into the drain opening of your toilet and creates a tight seal. Now, here is where most folks go wrong with the technique. They push down hard and fast, thinking the force is what clears the clog. But the real magic happens on the pull. You want to start by gently pushing the plunger down to get the air out of the cup. Then press it firmly against the drain opening to create your seal. Once you have got a good seal, push down slowly and pull up sharply. That sharp upward motion is what creates the suction that dislodges whatever is stuck in the trap. Repeat that motion about 15 to 20 times. Keep the plunger submerged the entire time, because if you break the seal and let air back in, you are starting over. Another thing people do not realize is that the water level matters. If the bowl is nearly empty, the plunger will not work well because there is not enough water to transfer that pressure. You want the rubber cup completely covered. If the water is too low, add some from a bucket before you start plunging. Give this method a solid 2 to 3 minutes before you move on to something else. 9 times out of 10, a proper flange plunger with the right technique handles the job. The second method on our list is the hot water and dish soap method. And this one is perfect for when you do not have a plunger handy or the plunger just is not cutting it. This works especially well on soft clogs, the kind caused by too much toilet paper or organic waste that just needs a little help breaking apart. Here is exactly how you do it. Start by squirting a generous amount of regular dish soap into the toilet bowl. I am talking about 4 or 5 good squeezes, roughly 2 tablespoons worth. The soap is going to work its way down toward the clog and start lubricating whatever is jammed in the trap. Now, let that soap sit for about 5 to 10 minutes. While you are waiting, head to the kitchen and heat up a bucket of water. This is the part where I need to give you a really important warning. Do not use boiling water. I cannot stress this enough. Boiling water can crack porcelain, especially on older toilets where the glaze may already have tiny imperfections. You want hot water, like the hottest your tap will produce, or just below boiling. Think of the temperature where you can still hold the outside of the pot for a second without it hurting too badly. Fill up a bucket with about a gallon or a gallon and a half of that hot water. Now, here is the technique. Hold the bucket at about waist height and pour the water into the bowl in a steady stream. Do not just dump it in gently. You want a little bit of force behind it because That force combined with the heat and the slippery soap is what pushes through the clog. The hot water softens the blockage, the soap lubricates the walls of the trap, and the pouring force pushes everything through. Wait another 5 minutes after pouring. In most cases, you will actually see the water level start to drop on its own. If it does, give it a flush, and you should be right back in business. If the water level has not budged after 10 to 15 minutes, do not just keep pouring more water in because you will overflow the bowl. The third method every homeowner should know about is the closet auger, also called a toilet auger, and this is actually the tool that most people confuse with a regular drain snake. They are not the same thing, and that difference is critical. A standard drain snake has a bare metal cable that will absolutely scratch, chip, and damage the porcelain inside your toilet bowl. I have seen it dozens of times over 30 years. Someone shoves a regular snake into their toilet and ends up with ugly gray scratch marks all over the inside of the bowl that never come out. A closet auger is specifically designed for toilets. It has a long metal shaft with a vinyl-coated or rubber tipped cable inside and a protective sleeve that keeps the metal from ever touching the porcelain. At the top, you have a crank handle, and at the bottom, there is a curved guide that follows the shape of the toilet trap perfectly. Here is how you use it correctly. Pull the cable all the way back so the tip is tucked up inside the protective shaft. Set the curved end down into the drain opening of the toilet bowl, angling it so it follows the natural path of the trap. Now slowly push the cable forward while cranking the handle clockwise. You will feel some resistance when the cable hits the clog. Keep cranking and pushing gently. The tip of the cable is designed to either break through the clog or grab onto whatever is stuck in there so you can pull it out. Once you feel the tension release or you have cranked through the resistance, slowly pull the cable back out. Check to see if the auger grabbed onto anything. Sometimes you will pull out a wad of paper towels, a clump of so-called flushable wipes, or something a child dropped in. If the water starts draining after you pull the cable out, you have cleared it. Give it a test flush with a small amount of toilet paper to confirm everything flows smoothly. A decent closet auger runs about $25 to $40 at any hardware store, and it will last you a lifetime. It is one of the smartest investments a homeowner can make. Now, if you're finding this video helpful so far, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It helps this video reach more homeowners like yourself who would also find this information helpful. All right, let's continue. The fourth method on our list is the baking soda and vinegar method. And if you have ever made a volcano for a school science fair, you already know the basic idea behind this one. The chemical reaction between baking soda and vinegar creates a fizzing action that can break apart organic clogs without using any harsh chemicals that might damage your pipes or your septic system. Here is exactly how to do it, step by step. First, if your bowl is full to the brim, you need to remove some of that water. Scoop it out with a disposable cup or a small container until the water level is about halfway down the bowl. You need room for the fizzing reaction to work without everything spilling over the edge. Next, pour about 1 cup of baking soda directly into the toilet bowl. Try to get it down into the drain opening as much as possible rather than just floating on top of the water. Let it settle for a minute or two. Now, slowly pour in 2 cups of plain white vinegar. You are going to see it start fizzing and bubbling right away. That reaction is what is working on the clog, breaking it apart at a chemical level. Do not rush this. Let the mixture fizz and do its thing for at least 20 to 30 minutes. I know that sounds like a long time when you have got a backed-up toilet. But patience is what makes this method work. After about 30 minutes, follow it up with a bucket of hot water poured from waist height, just like we talked about with the dish soap method. The combination of the fizzing action loosening the clog and the force of the hot water pushing it through is surprisingly effective. This method works best on clogs made of organic material like toilet paper, waste, and mild buildup. It will not do much against a solid object stuck in the trap, like a toy or a comb. But for everyday clogs, especially recurring slow drains, this is a safe and gentle approach that will not harm older pipes, PVC, or septic systems. One more thing. You can actually use this as a monthly maintenance routine. Just pour in half a cup of baking soda and 1 cup of vinegar once a month to keep your toilet draining freely and prevent buildup before it becomes a full blockage. The 5th unclogging technique is the bucket force flush. And this one is so simple that most people overlook it entirely. It uses nothing but water, gravity, and a little bit of physics to push a clog right through. Here is the idea. When you flush your toilet normally, the water drops from the tank into the bowl with a certain amount of force. But that force is limited by the design of the tank and the flush valve. When you pour a large volume of water from a height, you actually create more downward pressure than a standard flush ever could. That extra force can be just enough to push a stubborn partial clog through the trap and on its way down the drain. Here is how you do it properly. Fill a large bucket with about 2 gallons of water. Regular room temperature water is fine for this one, though warm water gives you a slight edge. Now stand over the toilet and hold the bucket at about chest height. Pour the water into the bowl in one steady, continuous stream aimed right at the drain opening. Do not pour it against the sides of the bowl. You want that full column of water going straight down into the trap. The key is committing to the pour. A timid, slow trickle will not do anything. You need a confident, steady pour that delivers all that water in a few seconds. Now, here is an important thing to watch for. If you already know the bowl is completely full and nothing is moving at all, do not try this method because you will send 2 gallons of water over the rim and onto your bathroom floor. This works best when the water is draining, but slowly. You can see it trickling away, but it is just not clearing completely. That is the sweet spot for a force flush. If the first pour does not clear it, wait for the water level to drop back down and try a second round. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 pours to break through. This method costs you absolutely nothing and takes about 60 seconds. It is always worth trying before you bring out heavier tools or spend money on products. The 6th method is one that surprises almost everyone, and it is using a wet-dry shop vacuum to suck the clog right out. Now, before I go any further, I need to be very clear about something. You must use a wet-dry shop vacuum. Do not, under any circumstances, use a regular household vacuum cleaner. A regular vacuum is not designed to handle water. and you will destroy the motor, or worse, create an electrical hazard. A shop vac, on the other hand, is built specifically to handle liquids. Here is how this works. First, set your shop vacuum to the wet mode. Most models have a switch, or you simply remove the paper filter and leave just the foam filter or the wet pickup filter in place. Check your owner's manual if you are not sure. Next, you want to get as much standing water out of the bowl as possible. Use the shop vac to suck out the water first. This gives you direct access to the clog without water getting in the way. Once the water level is down, take the hose of the shop vac and push it directly into the drain opening at the bottom of the toilet bowl. Now, here is the trick. You need to create a seal around the hose. You can wrap an old rag or towel around the hose where it meets the drain opening and press it down firmly with your hand. The tighter the seal, the more suction gets directed right at the clog. Turn the vacuum on and let it work. The suction power of a shop vac is significantly stronger than anything a plunger can generate. In many cases, it will pull the clog right back up through the drain opening and into the vacuum canister. You might hear a gurgling sound and then a sudden rush of air, which means the clog has broken free. I have personally used this technique on clogs that defeated plungers and augers alike. It is especially effective when something solid is wedged in the trap at an angle that other tools cannot reach. A decent shop vac costs around $60 to $80, and you will use it for 100 other jobs around the house and garage, so it more than pays for itself. The seventh approach is an enzyme-based drain cleaner, and this one requires some patience, but it is one of the safest and most gentle options available, especially if you are on a septic system. First, let me be clear about something important. I am not talking about chemical drain cleaners. Those products with the skull and crossbones on the label that promise to dissolve anything in minutes are absolutely terrible for your plumbing. They contain harsh chemicals like sodium hydroxide or sulfuric acid that can eat away at older pipes, damage wax rings, and wreak havoc on septic tanks. They can also splash back and cause serious chemical burns. Stay away from them. Enzyme-based cleaners are completely different. They contain natural bacteria and enzymes that literally eat organic material. They break down waste, toilet paper, hair, soap scum, and grease the same way your septic system does, just in a concentrated form. You can find them at most hardware stores or online. Look for products that specifically say enzyme-based or bacterial drain cleaner on the label. Here is how to use them for a clogged toilet. Pour the recommended amount directly into the toilet bowl. Most products call for about 1 cup. Then just leave it alone. This is an overnight job. The enzymes need 6 to 8 hours to break down the clog, so the best time to do this is right before bed. Let it work while you sleep, and by morning, try a flush. In most cases, the water will drain right through. Now, this method is not going to work on a solid object stuck in your trap, and it is not going to clear a completely blocked toilet in 30 minutes. But for slow drains, recurring partial clogs, and buildup that keeps coming back, enzyme cleaners are outstanding. I also recommend using them as a preventive measure. Pour a dose into each toilet once a month, and you will dramatically reduce the chances of ever dealing with a full clog in the first place. Think of it like taking a vitamin for your plumbing. The eighth and final item on our list is knowing when it is time to stop and call a professional. And honestly, this might be the most important one of all. There's a fine line between being a capable do-it-yourselfer and turning a $50 fix into a $2,000 disaster. Here are the warning signs that mean you should put down the tools and pick up the phone. If you have tried 2 or 3 of the methods we talked about today, and the toilet is still not draining, something more serious is going on. It could be a blockage deep in your main sewer line that no toilet auger or plunger can reach. It could be tree roots that have grown into your pipes underground. It could be a broken or collapsed pipe section that no amount of unclogging will fix. Another major red flag is if multiple fixtures in your home are backing up at the same time. If your toilet is clogged and your bathtub is gurgling, or your basement floor drain is backing up, that tells you the problem is not in the toilet itself. That is a main line issue, and it requires a professional with a camera and a full-size sewer machine. Also, pay attention to what happens after you clear a clog. If the same toilet keeps clogging every week or two, even with normal use, there is likely a partial obstruction somewhere in the line that is catching debris every time. A plumber can run a camera down the line and show you exactly what is going on and where. One more situation where you should always call a pro is if you need to pull the toilet off the floor to access the clog. We talked about the closet auger, but if that does not work, the next step is removing the entire toilet, flipping it over, and manually clearing the trap. That involves disconnecting the water supply, removing the mounting bolts, breaking the wax seal, and lifting a toilet that weighs anywhere from 60 to 80 pounds. If you have any concerns about your back, your knees, or your ability to safely handle that weight, there is absolutely no shame in calling someone. A professional service call for a toilet clog typically runs between $150 and $300, and that is a whole lot cheaper than a cracked toilet, a flooded bathroom, or a back injury. And now for the bonus tip that professional plumbers swear by. And this one is so simple you will wonder why nobody ever told you before. Before you ever start plunging or using any unclogging method, lay down old towels or newspaper all around the base of your toilet on the floor. I know that sounds basic, but here is why it matters more than you think. When you are working on a clogged toilet, water is going to splash, drip, and sometimes overflow no matter how careful you are. That water is not clean. If it gets into the grout lines of your tile, under your baseboards, or soaks into the subfloor around the toilet base, you are looking at potential mold growth, water damage, and odors that can linger for weeks. Professional plumbers always protect the work area first because they know the real cost of water damage is always worse than the clog itself. Take 60 seconds to lay down protection before you start, and you could save yourself hundreds of dollars in floor repairs and cleanup. It is the cheapest insurance you will ever buy. Thanks for sticking with me through the entire video. If you found this helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more DIY plumbing tips, and check out our other videos.